The atmosphere within the towering, immaculate glass walls of Forrester Creations has reached a terrifying boiling point, saturated with the kind of palpable, suffocating tension that always precedes a catastrophic corporate earthquake. At the very epicenter of this impending disaster stands Ridge Forrester, a man perpetually paralyzed by his own agonizing indecision. For weeks, Ridge has been caught in a brutal, emotional tug-of-war between the two most powerful, unyielding women in his life, his fiercely ambitious wife, Brooke Logan Forrester, and his ruthlessly determined daughter, Steffy Forrester Finnegan. Ridge's tragic flaw has always been his profound inability to make a definitive choice without inflicting massive collateral damage on the people he loves. His cowardice in the face of Brooke's aggressive push for the co-CEO position, combined with his failure to stand up to Steffy's unyielding demand for absolute loyalty, has created a highly dangerous, volatile vacuum of power at the very top of the fashion empire. He mistakenly believed that his hesitation could somehow preserve the peace, but his inaction only fueled a raging inferno, setting the perfect stage for a hostile confrontation that would alter the destiny of the Forrester legacy forever. Steffy Forrester Finnegan, however, is not a woman who waits for permission to protect what she believes is rightfully hers. Operating with the cold, calculating precision of a seasoned monarch defending her throne against invading forces, Steffy has been closely monitoring the shifting allegiances and secret strategy sessions taking place right under her nose. She recognizes that her father's wavering loyalty and paralyzing hesitation is a massive liability that the company can no longer afford to carry. The recent, terrifying revelation that Brooke and Hope Logan Spencer have been meticulously charting a path for Brooke's ascent to power has triggered Steffy's deepest, most aggressive survival instincts. She views the Logans not merely as family members with differing opinions, but as dangerous corporate parasites intent on draining the Forrester name to elevate their own status and wealth. With her grandfather, Eric Forrester, temporarily absent from the boardroom, Steffy identifies the perfect, incredibly narrow window of opportunity to strike a fatal, irreversible blow. She understands that to secure her dynasty, she must act with an absolute, unwavering ruthlessness that leaves absolutely no room for debate, compromise, or emotional manipulation. Capitalizing entirely on the deafening silence of her father's indecision, Steffy orchestrates a brilliant masterstroke of corporate warfare by suddenly calling an emergency board meeting. The abrupt summons sends a massive shockwave through the executive suites, drawing all the key players and major stakeholders into the grand boardroom. The heavy, imposing mahogany doors close with a resounding thud, effectively sealing the fate of everyone inside. The room is thick with a terrifying anticipation, the sprawling Los Angeles skyline serving as a dramatic, uncaring backdrop to the intimate family betrayals about to unfold. Brooke and Hope arrive with a misplaced, almost arrogant sense of confidence, perhaps foolishly believing that this meeting is yet another platform for Brooke to assert her dominance, pitch her vision, and finalize her claim to the highly coveted co-CEO chair. They sit together, presenting a united front of Logan ambition, entirely unaware that they are walking blindly and willingly into a meticulously constructed, inescapable execution chamber. Ridge takes his seat at the head of the table, his posture rigid, his eyes darting nervously between his wife and his daughter, profoundly unaware that his authority is about to be entirely usurped and dismantled before his very eyes. As the emergency meeting commences, the air in the room grows instantly frigid. Steffy does not begin with the usual, polite corporate pleasantries. She launches directly into a surgical, merciless dismantling of Brooke Logan's character, history, and current intentions. Standing tall at the head of the table, commanding the room with an aura of absolute authority that chillingly echoes the iron-fisted reign of her late grandmother, Stephanie Forrester, Steffy projects a series of damning documents, intercepted communications, and timeline logs onto the massive presentation screen. The evidence is irrefutable, meticulously verified, and utterly devastating. Steffy has compiled a comprehensive, airtight dossier detailing Brooke's secret, highly aggressive preparations for a hostile takeover of the company. The documents explicitly outline Brooke's covert strategy sessions with Hope, her calculated attempts to manipulate shareholder sentiment behind closed doors, and, most damning of all, her alleged collusion and strategic alignment with the rival Logan camp led by Katie and Bill Spencer. Steffy methodically connects the dots, painting a terrifying, vivid picture of a woman entirely willing to burn Forrester Creations to the ground if it means securing a permanent throne for herself and her daughter. With her voice ringing out through the silent boardroom like a Supreme Court judge delivering a final, unappealable verdict, Steffy articulates a razor-sharp argument that cuts straight to the bone of the ongoing corporate conflict. She eloquently and fiercely argues that Brooke Logan no longer cares about the legacy, the artistry, or the long-term financial stability of Forrester Creations. Instead, Steffy proclaims with absolute conviction, Brooke is driven solely by a blinding, selfish ambition to consolidate ultimate power for the Logan women at the expense of the Forrester name. She points directly to Hope's recent ultimatums, her insubordination, and the catastrophic stalling of the Hope for the Future line as undeniable proof that the Logans. Steffy passionately reminds the board of the immense sacrifices made by Eric and Ridge to build this global empire, contrasting that rich history with Brooke's current, treacherous, and deeply disloyal maneuvering. She frames Brooke not as a dedicated executive or a loving family member, but as a severe existential threat to the very survival of the Forrester brand, a dangerous Trojan horse operating maliciously from within the highest levels of the executive suite. The loyal shareholders, many of whom possess deep, historical ties to Eric Forrester and the original, foundational vision of the company, listen in stunned, breathless silence as the undeniable truth is laid bare before them. Steffy's presentation is absolutely flawless, leaving no room for Brooke to spin the narrative, deflect the blame, or play the victim card she has utilized so effectively in the past. The sheer, overwhelming weight of the documentary evidence, combined with Steffy's passionate, protective defense of her family's legacy, sways the room entirely and irreversibly in her favor. The board members exchange grim, knowing glances, their historical skepticism of the Logans violently reignited by this brazen display of corporate espionage and betrayal. They recognize, with crystal clarity, that Steffy is the only executive currently possessing the fortitude, the intelligence, and the clarity of vision necessary to protect their massive financial investments. The consensus forms rapidly among the stakeholders, a silent but palpable agreement that the cancerous spread of Logan ambition must be excised from the company immediately, before the structural damage becomes fatal and irreversible. Brooke sits completely frozen in her chair, the color draining entirely from her face as the terrifying magnitude of her miscalculation crashes down upon her shoulders. The confident, righteous aura she carried into the room shatters into a million jagged, irreparable pieces. She desperately attempts to formulate a defense, to appeal to Ridge's emotions, to explain that her actions were somehow born out of a desire to protect Hope and guide the company toward a more inclusive future. But her words ring incredibly hollow and pathetic against the stark, black and white reality of the evidence glaring from the presentation screen. Steffy has outmaneuvered her at every conceivable turn, brilliantly anticipating her strategies and turning Brooke's own unchecked ambition into a lethal weapon against her. Brooke realizes, with a sickening, dizzying drop in her stomach, that her relentless, aggressive pursuit of the co-CEO chair has not only failed spectacularly, but has provided Steffy with the exact ammunition required to destroy her entirely. The realization that she has been thoroughly, humiliatingly outplayed by her stepdaughter is a bitter, suffocating pill that Brooke is forced to swallow in front of the entire board. Armed with the absolute, unyielding support of the loyal shareholders, Steffy prepares to deliver the final, crushing blow. With a voice devoid of any warmth, hesitation, or familial affection, she officially moves to strip Brooke Logan Forrester of all her roles, titles, and influence within Forrester Creations. The motion is swift, brutal, and overwhelmingly supported by the board without a single dissenting voice. Steffy declares that Brooke's actions constitute a profound breach of fiduciary duty, a violation of corporate trust, and a betrayal of the highest possible order. She methodically lists the privileges that are being immediately and permanently revoked: boardroom access, executive decision-making power, security clearances, and any involvement in future design collections. In the span of a few agonizing, breathless minutes, Brooke's entire corporate identity is systematically dismantled, leaving her completely stripped of the power she has fought so desperately and ruthlessly to attain. The global empire she helped build and shape has violently rejected her, casting her out into the cold under the unforgiving, triumphant glare of Steffy's absolute victory. Watching her mother being publicly humiliated, systematically destroyed, and stripped of her life's work, Hope Logan Spencer reaches her absolute psychological breaking point. The radicalization that has been simmering within her for weeks, fueled by Steffy's condescension and the pausing of her fashion line, finally boils over into explosive, righteous, and uncontrollable fury. Hope leaps to her feet, her eyes blazing with a potent mixture of profound grief and unadulterated rage. She steps directly into Steffy's line of fire, fiercely defending her mother's legacy, her talent, and her unwavering dedication to the company over the decades. Hope loudly and aggressively condemns Steffy's actions as a petty, vindictive witch hunt designed solely to eliminate any dissenting voices and establish a tyrannical, unchecked dictatorship. She threatens, with absolute venom in her voice, to take the entirety of the Hope for the Future brand, along with its massive, dedicated global following, straight to the rival Logan camp, promising to wage a relentless, destructive war that will leave Forrester Creations begging for mercy. Hope foolishly believes that her aggressive threat will force Steffy to back down and reconsider, entirely underestimating the icy, bottomless depths of Steffy's newfound resolve. Steffy does not flinch. She does not raise her voice to match Hope's hysterical, desperate shouting. She does not offer a counterargument or attempt to de-escalate the situation. Instead, she regards her stepsister with a look of profound, chilling, and absolute indifference. Reaching calmly onto the polished mahogany table, Steffy picks up a sleek, unadorned manila folder and slides it smoothly across the surface until it comes to a rest directly in front of Hope and Brooke. The room falls into a deathly, suffocating silence, the kind of quiet that follows a massive explosion. Steffy coldly and evenly informs them both that their services are no longer required in any capacity whatsoever. The folder contains official, legally binding termination notices for both Brooke and Hope, explicitly citing severe, undeniable ethical violations, gross insubordination, corporate espionage, and direct conflicts of interest. Steffy makes it abundantly, painfully clear that Hope is not resigning in protest. She is being unequivocally fired. The Hope for the Future line, Steffy declares with finality, belongs entirely to Forrester Creations as intellectual property, and Hope is being unceremoniously evicted from the very brand she created. It is an execution of breathtaking precision and unparalleled cruelty. The sheer brutality and finality of the double termination leaves everyone in the boardroom gasping for air. Steffy elaborates on the terms of their exit, her tone remaining as sharp, precise, and unforgiving as broken glass. She dictates that building security has already been notified and is waiting in the hallway, and that Brooke and Hope will be escorted from the premises immediately, without the opportunity to return to their offices to collect personal belongings. They are strictly forbidden from accessing any company servers, contacting any Forrester personnel regarding business matters, or setting foot in the building ever again under the threat of severe legal action. Steffy has not merely defeated her corporate rivals, she has utterly annihilated them, ensuring that they can never again pose a threat to her absolute authority from within the walls of the company. The calculated coldness of her execution is a massive testament to the dawn of a new era at Forrester Creations, an era defined exclusively by Steffy's unwavering, iron-fisted rule, where loyalty is demanded above all else, and betrayal is punished with swift, total, and irreversible destruction. Throughout this entire, agonizing, and historic ordeal, Ridge Forrester remains heavily anchored to his chair, a tragic, pathetic, and completely helpless spectator in the violent destruction of his own family. The paralyzing cowardice that allowed this situation to escalate to such disastrous heights now renders him completely mute and physically immobilized. He watches, his eyes wide with a horrific mixture of shock, profound regret, and deep-seated inadequacy, as his daughter ruthlessly and methodically executes his wife and his stepdaughter. Ridge understands, in the darkest, most secret corners of his soul, that his failure to make a definitive choice, his desperate, foolish attempt to play both sides of the fence, is the direct and undeniable catalyst for this catastrophic fallout. He is trapped in a suffocating prison of his own making, completely unable to defend Brooke against the undeniable, documented evidence of her plotting, and entirely unable to stop Steffy from exercising her legitimate, shareholder-backed authority. His silence in this moment is a deafening roar of complicity, a final, heartbreaking betrayal that Brooke will never, ever be able to forgive or forget. For Brooke, Ridge's pathetic silence is 1,000 times more painful and destructive than Steffy's termination papers. As she looks desperately to her husband for a lifeline, a protest, or even a microscopic glimmer of emotional support, she finds only a hollow, defeated, broken man completely incapable of standing up to the corporate monster he helped create and nurture. The psychological toll of this moment is immeasurable and devastating. Brooke realizes, with a crushing finality, that her marriage has been fundamentally and perhaps permanently fractured by the toxic corporate ambitions that have consumed them all. She has lost her prestigious position, her hard-earned power, her legacy, and the unwavering defense of the man she loves, all in one devastating, perfectly orchestrated swoop. The profound humiliation of being escorted out of the building by armed security guards, paraded past the whispering employees, and the fashion legacy she helped build from the ground up, will forever be etched into her memory as the darkest, most traumatizing day of her professional and personal life. Hope, too, is forced to confront a violently shattered reality. Her grand, radicalized vision of staging a triumphant corporate revolution alongside her mother has ended in utter, humiliating, and total defeat. Stripped of her namesake brand, her creative platform, and her identity as a lead visionary designer at Forrester Creations, Hope is cast adrift into a terrifyingly uncertain future. The realization that Steffy holds absolutely all the cards, including the ironclad legal rights to the Hope for the Future name and back catalog, is a bitter, suffocating truth that threatens to break her spirit. However, as the shock begins to wear off, Hope's righteous fury slowly morphs into a cold, hardened, and incredibly dangerous determination. She understands that the internal battle within Forrester Creations is definitively lost, but the broader industry war is far from over. This brutal eviction will only serve to push her entirely and willingly into the waiting, eager arms of the Logan brand, setting the stage for a massive, industry-shaking retaliation that will redefine the fashion landscape of Los Angeles for decades to come. As the heavy, imposing boardroom doors close firmly behind Brooke and Hope, officially sealing their exile from the empire, Steffy Forrester Finnegan stands tall and victorious at the head of the table. She has successfully weathered the storm, defeated the internal invaders, and emerged from the wreckage with her power not only intact but exponentially, terrifyingly magnified. The loyal shareholders nod in silent, deeply respectful approval, recognizing that the multi-billion-dollar company is finally safe in the capable, ruthless hands of a true, unapologetic Forrester. Steffy has successfully consolidated her dynasty, transforming Forrester Creations into an impenetrable fortress of her own design. There is no longer any debate, any whisper of dissent, or any question about who controls the absolute future of the empire. Steffy's victory is absolute, a flawless masterclass in corporate warfare that has forever altered the balance of power in Los Angeles. She looks down at her father, who remains slumped and broken in his chair, offering a silent, chilling acknowledgement that the torch of leadership has not been gently passed, but rather forcefully, rightfully, and ruthlessly taken. The massive shockwaves of this emergency board meeting will violently ripple outward, crashing into the rival Logan brand with devastating, unpredictable force. Bill Spencer and Katie Logan Spencer, already terrified of Brooke's initial power play, will now have to absorb the chaotic, highly volatile fallout of Brooke and Hope's total, unceremonious expulsion from the industry giant. While they may stand to gain the highly motivated, incredibly vengeful designers they desperately need to sustain their momentum, they will also inherit the full, unmitigated, and terrifying wrath of a unified, Steffy-controlled Forrester Creations. The battle lines have been irrevocably drawn in the sand, etched in bad blood and shattered family ties. The corporate battlefield has been thoroughly cleared of internal saboteurs, only to set the perfect stage for an external, all-out war of unprecedented brutality and scale. Steffy's ruthless punishing blow has ensured that the upcoming fashion season will not be defined by friendly competition or artistic expression, but by a vicious, blood-soaked quest for absolute, unquestioned industry domination. For Ridge Forrester, the future is a desolate, fractured, and deeply lonely landscape. He must now return to a home tainted by profound, unforgivable betrayal and face a wife who looks at him not as an equal partner or a protector, but as a weak coward who abandoned her on the battlefield when she needed him the most. His relationship with Steffy is forever, fundamentally altered. He is no longer the wise patriarch guiding his daughter's hand, but a subordinate existing quietly within her fiercely protected, authoritarian empire. The emotional chasm between Ridge and Brooke may prove far too vast to ever bridge, inevitably driving him toward his historical, predictable tendency to seek solace and validation in the uncomplicated, supportive arms of Taylor Hayes. The ultimate tragedy of Ridge's existence is that in his desperate, foolish attempt to hold onto both his daughter's loyalty and his wife's ambition, he has effectively lost them both, leaving him isolated in the cold, unforgiving shadow of Steffy's monumental, historic triumph. Ultimately, this emergency board meeting will be remembered in the annals of Los Angeles history as the defining, crowning moment of Steffy Forrester Finnegan's reign. It is the exact day she shed the last remaining, restrictive remnants of familial compromise and fully, unapologetically embraced the ruthless, uncompromising legacy of her namesake, Stephanie Forrester. By brilliantly weaponizing Eric's temporary absence, leveraging undeniable documentary evidence, and executing her rivals with chilling, sociopathic precision, Steffy has secured her throne against all odds and all challengers. The era of shared power, diplomatic compromise, and Logan influence at Forrester Creations is officially, brutally, and permanently dead. From the smoking ashes of Brooke and Hope shattered, misguided ambitions rises a new, formidable, and terrifying empire, ruled with an iron fist by a queen who has proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that she will destroy absolutely anyone who dares to challenge.